Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I'd do something a little bit different and basically be in front of the camera. So so with this particular video I thought it would be a good idea to show you after the bad weather that we've had recently. We've had a few -6s and I wanted to show you really the casualties which have happened in the garden and whether I think they're going to kind of bounce back or not. And if they don't bounce back, to see, just to go through what my options are and yeah, whether I should change those to another type of palm, for instance, which have got a better chance of survival and is basically less work for me to, I don't want to keep wrapping everything up all the time because part of having this garden is to kind of try and keep the maintenance levels down, but still create, my vision of a sort of jungle, exotic style garden. So so I'll talk you through basically the casualties of this winter so far. So here is one of the casualties of the -6 frosts that we had. Um, there was basically the week of really cold weather. We had a kind of like a -2, then it went down to a -6. It sort of recovered for a couple of days, and then we had another -6. Um, so although we didn't have the weather that we had last year, which was where we consistently had about 2 weeks of really low temperatures, frosts every night, low temperatures during the day. This time we actually had a few days where actually at night it was about sort of 1 degree, so at least it got above zero. So yeah, the obviously all the leaves have burnt off this Washington robusta palm. um, I am optimistic the trunks are actually quite sturdy still on this, they're not all soft and everything. So I'm kind of optimistic that when the warmer weather comes along, I'll chop off a lot of these. Pretty much all of the leaves will get chopped off, and hopefully the centre of the palm will put out another leaf. So I've heard they do bounce back really strongly and they grow quite quickly. So yeah, I mean, this one during the cold temperature, I put a one of the white ton bags over the top of it, which did protect it a little bit. But then unfortunately, we had a bit more windy weather, and the ton bag, even though it was tied down, uh, sort of half came off it. So obviously, it probably got a little bit more cold than it should have done. So yeah, this one was actually my favourite one because it's got the triple trunk on it, so you can see down here. So it's got a really nice triple trunk. So I really hope that that does actually bounce back, because my plan was that it will fill this space here. So yeah, fingers crossed on that one. So I do actually have a backup, which when this palm was delivered, um, the it was delivered as a full trunk one, and I managed to split one of the trunks off of it to make this one a triple because I thought that would look better. And also it gave me a backup in case this one did get totaled by the frost. And here is the backup, which is still looking nice and green in the greenhouse, thanks to the greenhouse heater down here. So yeah, we've got lovely leaves on it, but it is just the single trunk version. So if the other one does fail, the plan is that this one may go out in its place, but I'll make sure that when this is planted, it's a lot bigger than what it is now. So I might have to keep it for a few years in just increasing the pot size on it. So they do grow incredibly fast, and they have been known to obviously bounce back from hard frosts and things. So But as I say, yeah, if it does in the future go out, what I do is I make sure that I wrap the trunk with like loads of insulation, like I do with the bananas, and then that will hopefully protect the trunk. And then even if the leaves all get totaled, then at least it will bounce back on there, because they are, you know, they are a nice looking palm, and they just give something a little bit different to the normal Trachycarpus. So the other option I've got in the place, if this one doesn't work, is I've got a Princeps hybrid Trachycarpus down here, which is very small at the moment. So you can see my hand next to it. But they, again, these actually grow quite fast, and they've got the lovely, I don't know whether you can see it on the camera, but they've got like a slightly blue underside, sort of silvery blue underside to them. So ultimately, if the Washingtonia does fail, this one hopefully by that time will be a good option to put in there, because this will be a really decent size by then. So fingers crossed. So down here we have another casualty of the -6 frost. This one wasn't covered. It is actually underneath a lilac tree, so it doesn't get quite as cold under here. But this one obviously has been hit, because when it thawed out, the leaves have flopped down. I don't know whether this could potentially spear pull on there. It's a shame, because this was recovering from last year's bad weather. So it's got quite a thick trunk on it as well. So yeah. So here is the other Canary Island date palm. And yeah, it's kind of like, the problem with these palms, they look really nice in the summer. They give really nice kind of fine, dainty foliage and stuff. But the problem is every winter they seem to be, you know, we have like, we're just off of the south coast down here, and actually, you know, compared to other parts of the country, it's not that cold. But last year we had very cold temperatures for a couple of weeks, and then this year we've had a couple of -6s. And although this one's been covered, you can see on the damage to the leaves, it's just not, it just doesn't have the you know, there's no point really having it if it's going to take so long to recover, like each year, and it's going to have like really rough leaves and that. Yeah, especially, you know, compared to, you know, the Butia over here, which is a hardier feather palm. You can see this one's got like no damage on it at all. Really decent trunk on it. Yeah, so I'm thinking, if it doesn't work long term, do I put a different type of Butia in there? Because then I know that I'm kind of good down to about -10. I could even, you know, even when it's getting to that larger size, I could always, you know, tie up the leaves and protect them a little bit from the frost. So whereas these Canary Island date palms, they're just not as frost hardy at all. So, and there's no point really, you know, keeping something that's going to look really rough all the time. And also my other thought is this area here, although I've got a bit of height, it's like, technically speaking, these palms can get huge when they get going. So the other question is it actually in the right place? Because although it's quite small at the moment, it will get massive. So I'm thinking as a possibility of taking out the two Canary Island date palms that I've got, and replacing them with another type of palm, which is a shame, because I would like to, you know, have as varied plants in the garden, as possible. But just compared to palms that do -10 or minus kind of 15 and things, it's just they're not hardy enough really. So and they're even worse if you put them in pots because the frost really penetrates into the pot. Yeah, so most of the plants in the garden have actually done really well. Also, I haven't mentioned so far, but we had extremely strong winds as well. So this large Trachycarpus got a little bit wind battered. You can see some of the leaves are a bit sort of bent up and everything. But it also seems to be showing a little bit of signs of like yellowing on the leaves, which apparently in the winter can happen because of obviously lower light levels and things like that. But it also, because I'm on chalk here and I've got probably about a foot to 2 foot of kind of topsoil, and then I hit sort of solid chalk. So the issue is obviously because it's very alkaline, it means that the plant can't really take up things like iron and manganese. So it's I've given it a little bit of a feed with bloodfish and bone, which has got some nutrients and stuff which should help that. So it's got some higher nitrogen and things. But I've also given it a little bit of a tonic of like liquid iron, which should help. Obviously, being a liquid feed onto the top of the roots, that should give it like a little bit of a boost on there. But actually, I mean, the young leaves are actually nice and green. It's mainly obviously the older ones that are really suffering in that. So, but it could also be, I mean, I'm on well drained soil, obviously with chalk. But the other thing could be, of course, is that we had absolutely loads of rain throughout kind of like November, December. It pretty much didn't stop raining, so the ground was very saturated. And of course, my garden, it's a lot higher at the back of the garden than it is towards the front. It slopes down here. So, and obviously around the pond as well, when the pond fills up, that overflows into the surrounding soil. So, yeah, so it could be that it's got too much water around its roots in winter. Um, but the other palms and the other plants down here seem all right. So I would say it's more likely to do with the chalk than anything else. So yeah, we'll have to see how this recovers in the spring and that. But the plan is to basically trim off some of the lower leaves, and obviously as the palm gets growing, it will throw out loads more nice green leaves on the top, and it just look neater and everything. So yeah, unfortunately, the wind does come through this section here. So this is southwest. So yeah, wind blows through here, and although it's sort of semi-protected by the garage and things like that, it still does get battered by high winds. So yeah, just see how this one recovers. I'm sure it will do. So down here I have a what's left of my Xanthodecia. This one is the most hardy one that you can get in the UK, and I did cover it for a bit. It survived kind of -2, -3 is fine, but even with a bag basically put over it, it once we hit kind of -6 and stuff, it totally knocked back all the leaves. But the plant's fine. The plant will bounce back. So it's just a shame because it was literally about to it had a flower stalk and it was looking so good for so long, and then it just suddenly, we had this really cold weather and yeah, it took it out. So bit of a shame on that one. So I'd say overall, although there's obviously a few casualties of those extreme frosts, but I'd say overall, things like phormiums, the Trachycarpus, and a lot of the kind of things like heucheras and the euphorbias and things like that, everything's looking good so far. So I'm pretty confident that this stuff it will really, as soon as we hit warmer weather in spring, it will really bounce back pretty fast. Obviously, yeah, next year I've got some of the Tetrapanax plants going in and things like that. So I will have to wrap those next year. But again, they should, they can take lower temperatures and stuff. So as long as I wrap the trunks on them and that, they should be fine. And I'm also pretty confident that the bananas, they're looking good because they keep trying to poke through the tops of the insulation. So yeah, so I think overall, yes, we've had some cold weather, but it is January, and yeah, it's to be expected. We're in winter, so this is usually as bad as the garden kind of looks. But yeah, compared to last year when I did basically put loads of stuff in, it last year loads of stuff got hit by the frost because it was obviously newly planted and they weren't very mature plants and stuff. But this year so far is looking much better, so we should get some good growth on everything. Yeah, so hope you've enjoyed the video, and please don't forget to subscribe and click the like button because that definitely helps. And yeah, looking forward to doing the next video.